Most people die from the wrong things after civilization collapses. Not from starvation, not from violence, from the stuff they never saw coming. And nothing fits that description better than bugs. Not the dramatic kind, not the Hollywood kind. The real kind. The swarm that finds your campsite at 3 in the morning. The mosquito landing on the back of your neck every 40 seconds until you can't sleep, can't think, can't make a single clean decision. The invisible army of biting, crawling, disease-vectoring insects that have been here for 400 million years and have absolutely no interest in your survival plan. Here's what nobody tells you in the prepper forums. Insects will degrade your performance before anything else does, before dehydration, before hunger, before the loneliness even starts to set in. Sleep deprivation from a bad bug environment compromises your decision-making in under 72 hours. Reaction time slows, judgment clouds. You start making the kind of mistakes that get people killed. And the brutal part is you don't realize you're making them because a sleep-deprived brain is confidently, catastrophically wrong about its own functioning. Mosquitoes, midges, black flies, no-see-ums, these aren't a nuisance in a collapse scenario. They are a threat vector. And in the next 18 minutes, you're getting 2 field-proven tricks, 0 cost, 0 gear, that will take you from the loudest signal in your environment to something insects can barely detect. But to use them right, you need to understand why insects find you in the first place. Because once you see the mechanism, the solution becomes almost embarrassingly obvious. Insects do not find you the way you find things. They don't spot a silhouette and investigate. Their sensory architecture is completely different. Biting insects, primarily mosquitoes because they're the most studied, most dangerous, and most universally present threat, are hunting a chemical and thermal signature you broadcast continuously, whether you know it or not. Every exhale sends a CO2 beacon detectable from 50 meters away. Your skin surface radiates heat around 33 to 35 degrees Celsius. On a cool night, you're a thermal lighthouse in a cold landscape. And through physical exertion and bacterial skin activity, you're continuously off-gassing lactic acid and octanol, the chemical cocktail that tells every insect in range exactly where to go. Have you ever noticed how the person who carried the heavy pack all day gets absolutely destroyed by bugs at camp that night, while the lighter loaded person barely gets touched? That's not bad luck. That's biochemistry. In a real collapse, that difference can decide who stays sharp and who starts making fatal errors by day 3. You can't eliminate all these signals, but you can knock out enough of them at enough range that insects struggle to locate you, approach you, or commit to landing on you. 2 tricks, 2 detection systems. Stack them together and you go from neon sign to background noise. The first trick is smoke discipline. This is ancient. Indigenous peoples across every continent used smoky fires for insect management long before any military doctrine touched it. From the smudge fires of North American hunting camps to green wood smoke pits in West African villages, soldiers operating in jungle and tropical environments without chemical repellents drew from exactly this same field knowledge. The insight isn't new. What matters is understanding the mechanism well enough to deploy it correctly. Smoke from green, leafy wood produces phenolic compounds, guaiacol, cyrengol, and related chemicals that don't mask your scent the way cologne masks body odor. They jam the olfactory receptors insects use to track their targets. In a bug-heavy environment, you need 2 separate fuel piles, one for cooking, one for your smudge burn. One fire trying to do both jobs does neither job well. Positioning is where most people destroy their own protection without realizing it. Your shelter and sleeping area must be downwind of the smoke source, so the plume flows continuously through your position. Picture yourself doing it wrong. You sit upwind for comfort during the evening, the smoke drifts away, the fire dies down by midnight, and at 2 in the morning, the swarm returns like you never built a fire at all. Accept the smoke. Your eyes will water. Your gear will smell. This is correct. Malaria doesn't care about your comfort. Timing tightens the whole system further. Biting insect activity peaks at dawn and dusk, so if you're rationing fuel, these 2 windows are when you burn green, smoky material. 2 hours around sunrise, 2 hours around sunset. Build that into your rhythm before you need it. And here's the element most people miss entirely. Personal smoke impregnation. Sit deliberately in your smoke plume for 30 to 40 minutes before entering bug-heavy terrain, and you extend the deterrence well beyond the fire perimeter. The phenolic compounds saturate your outer clothing layers. You become a moving disruption field for several hours, enough to cover a foraging run, a patrol, or the critical dawn window before you've had time to rebuild a proper smudge fire. This is the same logic behind smoked fabric hung at shelter entrances in traditional communities. You're not just making the air unpleasant for insects, you're becoming part of the problem for them. Smoke handles the long game. It degrades CO2 orientation and disrupts olfactory tracking from 50 meters down to the outer edge of your position. But once insects have entered your immediate perimeter, within 1 to 2 meters, they switch to shorter range thermal and chemical targeting. Smoke alone doesn't cover that final gap. That's where the second trick closes everything. The second trick is thermal and chemical signature reduction. And yes, it involves mud. I know. First reaction for most people is skepticism. It sounds like something a child would suggest. But sit with the physics for a moment, because this isn't folk medicine. It's applied thermal insulation and chemical absorption, and the mechanism is straightforward once you see it. Picture this. Dusk. You're exhausted after a full day of carrying weight through rough terrain, and bugs are already swarming, and you've got nothing in your kit. No DEET, no mesh, no spray. The ground near your water source is dark and dense, heavy clay soil that holds its shape when you press it. You coat your exposed skin, neck, forearms, face, ankles in a half-inch layer of that mud. In the next 90 minutes, landings on those covered areas drop dramatically, not because the mud smells bad, because you've just closed down 2 of the 3 detection pathways insects were using to find you. The thermal pathway first. Mud has low thermal conductivity compared to open air, meaning it slows the rate at which heat radiates outward from your skin surface. Insects using infrared detection during close-range approach get a significantly degraded heat signal. You go from a lighthouse to a candle. Same heat source underneath, just a much smaller signature from outside. The chemical pathway second. Clay-rich soil absorbs volatile organic compounds with notable efficiency. Lactic acid and octanol that normally evaporate off unprotected skin and diffuse into surrounding air get partially captured in the mud matrix before they can disperse. You're not eliminating your chemical signature, you're meaningfully reducing its emission rate. And in insect detection, the difference between a strong signal and a weak one determines whether you're worth tracking at all. Indigenous hunting cultures from the Congo Basin to the Australian outback used mud application as standard operating procedure in high insect density zones. The physics explain why it consistently worked. This isn't mysticism, it's applied material science that predates written language. The discipline around mud matters as much as the application itself. Mud dries. When it dries and cracks, it loses both its thermal insulation and absorption capacity simultaneously. The exposed gaps in cracked mud is where the protection collapses. Reapplication every 90 minutes to 2 hours is the functional standard. Treat it as a maintenance task, the same way you track water consumption, not a one-time fix. Soil selection matters too. Sandy, low clay soil dries fast, cracks early, and absorbs poorly. Dense, dark, clay-heavy soil from riverine and lowland areas adheres better, dries slower, and performs far better across both pathways. The irony is that the environments with the best mud are the environments with the worst mosquito pressure. The solution is always available exactly where you need it most. Now here's where both systems come together. And this is the part worth sitting with because it changes how you think about field protection entirely. Smoke discipline handles long-range detection. CO2 orientation and olfactory tracking from 50 meters down to the outer perimeter of your position. Mud application handles close-range detection, the thermal and short-range chemical signals insects use during final approach, when they're within 1 to 2 meters and making the landing decision. These 2 techniques operate at completely different distances and through completely different sensory pathways. Neither covers the full chain alone. Together, they create a layered suppression system that degrades insect detection at every phase of the hunt, from initial orientation to final commit. You're not invisible, but you're a dramatically harder target across the entire sequence, and in field conditions, that gap is the difference between sleeping and not sleeping. In a collapse scenario, the stakes attached to that gap are not small. Vector-borne illness that the current medical system handles routinely becomes potentially fatal without access to treatment. West Nile virus, dengue, malaria in certain geographic zones. The mosquito that finds you in a grid-down environment isn't the nuisance. It's a delivery system for pathogens that could kill you over the following weeks regardless of everything else you got right. History made this clear without much subtlety. In the Pacific theater of World War II, some island campaigns recorded more casualties from malaria than from enemy action. Entire operational timelines were disrupted by vector-borne disease, tearing through units with no effective field protection. When chemical repellents became standard issue, the pre-chemical solutions faded from common knowledge. In a world without that supply chain, they're exactly what you need to remember. Sleep is where your immune system does its real work, where muscle tissue repairs, where decision-making resets for the next day. Anything that degrades sleep degrades everything downstream of it. Insects degrade sleep better than almost anything else in a field environment. This is not a camping comfort issue. Insect management belongs at the same priority level as water purification and fire starting, not below it. The integration into your camp routine needs to be habitual before you need it, not improvised when you're already exhausted and half-eaten. When selecting your site, look for elevated open ground with clear wind exposure, enough clearance to position your smoke source upwind so the plume flows through your shelter perimeter. Gather green leafy branches for your smudge burn while you still have daylight, separate from your cooking fuel. Near your water source, check the soil. Good clay mud holds its shape when pressed between your fingers without crumbling. Mix it before the dusk window opens. Apply before the swarm arrives. Reapply before it dries. The smudge fire is upwind. The plume drifts steadily through your shelter like a protective curtain. Your outer layers are already saturated from a deliberate smoke sit earlier in the afternoon, carrying that phenolic shield with you wherever you move. Your exposed skin is covered in river clay that's still damp and tight, sealing in your heat and chemical signature. The dusk window opens. The swarm arrives in force, and for the first time in whatever collapse scenario you've been imagining, it mostly passes you by. Not because you have anything special, because you understood the detection chain and dismantled it layer by layer with what the ground gave you: smoke and mud. Field-proven, biologically rooted, completely free. The people who survive long-duration collapse aren't just the ones who stored the most or trained the hardest. They're the ones who took seriously the threats nobody else bothered to think about. The slow-moving, invisible, 400-million-year-old threats that don't announce themselves until it's already too late. Now you know exactly why they work. Go test this on your next overnight in bug country and drop your results in the comments. I read every one.